Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I know you know it. And if you don't know it off the top of your head, when I start to read it, I guarantee you'll say, I've heard of it before. Some of you even have it printed on a plaque in your home. It's on a coffee mug that you drink out of. It's such a familiar passage, and rightly so. It's full of hope and promise from God himself. Here's what it says. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. I want to start at the end. I love the promise that Solomon gives us here. He says, if you do the first three things in this passage, in the end, God will give you a straight path. Now, a lot of times we read that and we think, oh, great. God will give me an easy path. God will give me a successful path. If you've been following Jesus for a long time, you know that doesn't always happen. Oftentimes when I'm trusting God with my life and I'm acknowledging him and I'm not leaning into my own understanding, I'm usually on a difficult path, not an easy one. But isn't it interesting, the more that you and I fulfill the first three things in the passage, God gets us to where we're supposed to be, and he helps us to become who we're supposed to become. That is a straight path. And that's exactly the path that God wants us to be on. Well, how do we do that? Well, we take the first three commands in the verse seriously. It says in verse 5, you trust the Lord with all of your heart, and you don't lean on your own understanding. Solomon is saying, look, you and I, we have two choices. We can either trust in God, or we lean into our own understanding, or trust in ourselves. It's so easy to trust in ourselves. So easy to trust in what we think is right. But how often have you and I made decisions in our lives when we've trusted our own understanding that have led us off the wrong path? But the times when we trust God, even though we don't see the future, when we trust God with our whole heart, it's not always easy, but boy, it leads to the straight path, doesn't it? It gets us to where we're supposed to go, and it helps us to become who we're supposed to become. That only can happen when we trust God with our whole heart and we don't lean on our own understanding. The last part of this verse, in order to get on the path where we're supposed to be and who we are supposed to become, is to acknowledge him. How do we acknowledge him? Well, that word simply means to submit or surrender to him. It's the famous passage that Jesus says, God, I have a way and I have a will, but in the end, I want what you want. Not my will, but your will be done. When you look God in the eyes every single day and say, God, I have a plan, I have a will, but I'm going to surrender it to you, he will make your paths straight. So would you trust him? Do not trust yourself, and submit to him in all your ways so you can go where you're supposed to go and become who you're supposed to become. Until next time, love you guys.